So the last thing we now have to do before we assemble the whole Z-axis assembly together is prepare our lead screw. This is just a piece of M6 stainless steel. And we're going to attach this drive gear onto this. So if we were to just pop that in there and tighten up those screws, it's highly likely that this is going to slip very, very quickly. So we need to actually make some little flats on the threaded rod just to seat the grub screws onto, so it will never spin. So first thing we're going to have to do is just figure out where those flats need to be. So on our base plate, I've just got our base plate here. Must have run away. There's going to be a bearing. This bearing is going to be seated in there. I'm just going to push that home and take the backing off this one. And our threaded rod is actually just going to sit in there. So we just want enough clearance on there for the threaded rod to sit just on the other side of that bearing. So if we hold that, I'm just going to measure. But there has to be one other little element that goes in there first, and that's a little washer. Now regular washers, these bearings are specialty bearings. They're 10mm outer and 6mm inner, which means that a regular washer will stop. The flange on the regular washer, or the outer diameter on a regular washer, will foul on that outer edge. So we've got to make up some little bespoke washers. They're pretty easy to do, just out of a bit of copper wire. I've got that copper wire there, so the copper wire goes on first, and now you can see there's just a little bit of clearance. Let's just see if I can get that to focus. There's clearance for the drive gear to spin properly. So we just want to measure where that needs to be. So I'm just going to push that through to the other side of the bearing, and about 0.5 mil per out of that, and grab the good old trusty verniers again and open that to the center, and I'll just measure that. And that's about 16 millimeters to the center. So we want to measure 16 mil, and take that back off again, 16 millimeters in, and then we can file our flat. I'm just going to grab this again here and get my Sharpie and just pop that. 16.3, but I'll just make it an even 16, like that. Get off the Sharpie, and just going to mark that there. So our first flat needs to be there. So our drive gear has to sit this way up so that the belt has clearance to some of the other components that go into the inside the machine. So I'm just going to pop that here. I'm just going to file our first flat. We'll just go down to the base of the thread. Doing it as evenly as we possibly can. So there's one flat. Now we need another one at right angles to that, because we've actually got two grub screws on this part. So there needs to be another one at right angles. So I'm just going to place that in here and look to see, get it as close as possible to right angles as we can. Put that back down, put it in place. see, they're pretty much perfect. So now, thread these on. We can screw fix this in place. I'm going to actually do these up really quite tight. I don't want that moving ever again, so that's really well fixed in there. Just make sure that it's kind of centered. That looks pretty good. Now to make this little copper washer, we'll just take some of this copper wire and the handle on your tapping handle is pretty much 6mm, should be pretty much 6mm. I'm just going to wrap that around there like that. Wrap it a little bit further than required, and now I'm going to clip that off. Might even do that with a knife, just clip it off in the right spot. So I'm just going to take this off at the join with a knife, just because I can get in there a little bit easier. There we go. That one's done. Okay, so now that should go on there. I'm just going to test this again on our base plate. That sits perfectly, and we're ready to assemble the Z-axis.